Yo, if you're tuned into this video, you clearly know who Dave Ramsey is. And if you don't know who he is, Dave Ramsey is probably the biggest finance personality to date. I mean, this dude sold millions of books. His entire staff are New York Times bestseller. He's gotten millions of people out of debt, and he's responsible for a lot of first generation millionaires. Hey, even your boy DFD went through Financial Peace University. So I definitely give Dave Ramsey credit for a lot of the financial success and moves that I've made since I completed FPU. Now, I was listening to the Ramsey show, and y'all know I like to do videos occasionally where I talk about watch out for scammers, or I talk about a fraudster or somebody giving some bad advice. And I was listening to a Dave Ramsey call, and this lady called in with a budgeting problem. But in that call, it was interesting because her attorney actually gave her terrible advice. The advice her attorney gave her, if true, would constitute a fraud on the court and could land her in big trouble. Let's go ahead and talk about it. We're going to dive into the details. Let's get it. Yo, what's good? I'm Marcus. You're at the channel The Debt Free Dad. If you're interested in financial takes, financial topics, attorney reactions, and finding out what DFD's family, the moves we're making for financial freedom and to become first generation millionaires, definitely like this video, subscribe, and support the channel, and hit that bell notification so you can know when we have new content out. We're talking Dave Ramsey and bad advice. And I'm going to just take it as if this lady, what she's saying is actually true. Why would she call the Dave Ramsey show and not give him the facts? Because she wants Dave to help her with her situation. Now, the caller is Sandy, who's calling in from Cincinnati, and she's calling in with a budgeting question. She's asking how can she get her mind wrapped around and create a budget because she's actually dealing with a divorce. Now, y'all know when you're dealing with divorce, you got marital assets that got to be split up, debt that has to be split up. So it can create for an unstable budgeting situation. So she has a divorce, so she want to know how can she budget things out. She's really optimistic because she said it looks like her and her husband are going to be able to get everything resolved through mediation. And so far, so good. So so far, so good. So Dave gave her some guidance on that. But as we dive deeper into the call, and I'm giving y'all the facts, if you want to see the call, I'll put the link in the description box or in the comments so you can check it out. But as we dive deeper into the call, this lady says that she's inheriting $450,000 from a deceased relative. All of this money is in her name, and she also stated that she's going to give about $150,000 to some relatives, and she's going to keep $300,000 and use 200 of that 300,000 to buy a house. Now, this is where things get a little bit crazy. She stated that her attorney told her to not close out and settle the estate until the divorce is final. Well, what she's getting at is that the attorney gave her this advice so her husband wouldn't have any claim to her inheritance. And there's a couple of things that are crazy. Let's talk about this advice as general that I feel fairly confident this is what the lady was told, because who would call in for advice and make up a fact like that? It just wouldn't make any sense. So if everything that the lady said was true, that would mean her attorney is asking her to make a fraudulent representation to the court. This is my definition of fraud. Hey, fraud is deceit by either making up a material important fact or by omitting a material important fact. A lot of times when people are going through divorce, hey, I'm not a family law attorney, but this is general common knowledge for a lot of people. When people are going through divorce, states have mandatory asset disclosure rules, and you have to disclose things that are assets so everything can be divided up equitably. So that's first and foremost. So I think one thing is if your attorney gave you advice, whether it's good or bad, you probably shouldn't call into a nationally syndicated show with 18 million viewers a week. That's probably a bad move to make, especially the advice that this attorney actually gave this young lady. It was terrible advice. It's essentially perpetrating a fraud on the court. Now, that's point number one. Point number two on why this is bad advice, because it's probably not true. In most states, and I looked it up, hey, she happens to be in Cincinnati, and I looked it up. The state that she is calling from, for most states, are excluded by statute from marital property. So there's no reason for her to postpone the settlement to try to make this inheritance non-marital property, because the state that she lives in, by law, inheritance is not marital property. So her husband wouldn't have, or her future ex-husband wouldn't have any claim to the property. So it's definitely crazy. Now, I wanted to provide y'all an example. If what her attorney said was true, which I think we clearly established that it isn't, but if what her attorney said was true and she was trying to have property that would have properly been classified as marital property, let me tell y'all about an interesting story on why you shouldn't do this. The Rossi family, Thomas Rossi and his wife Denise Rossi, they were married for 25 years, and Thomas Rossi said that, hey, they didn't really have a lot of issues or anything like that, no issues. Well, his wife, Denise, won $1.3 million in the lottery. What did she do after she won that money in the lottery? $1 million. she was, she tried to be smart. And so she said that I'm going to get a divorce from my husband. So she divorced her husband. After the divorce was final, she cashed in her winning lottery ticket. Well, her husband, Thomas, found out about this. And because she violated the state's financial disclosure laws related to family law and equitable distribution, the judge awarded Thomas 100% of the proceeds from her lottery winning. So, hey, I think that you can never perpetrate a fraud on the court. And y'all know, if y'all watch my channel, I talk about fraudsters and scammers and schemers. Fraud in general is bad. Perpetrating a fraud on the court with assets will be bad. It looks like this lady who attorney gave her the advice who called into the Ramsey show. One, he gave her bad advice in general, but two, it doesn't appear that the advice is accurate. In the state that this lady resides, like I said earlier, fortunately for her, are not marital property. That's her property. So no matter when she closes out the estate and take care of it, her husband or ex-husband will have no claim to the property. I thought that was crazy. I thought it was crazy that she would even call and say this. Like, hey, keep your calls and communications with your attorneys to yourself. That's why they have this whole thing called attorney-client privilege. It's there to protect you. And, hey, sometimes there are professionals who give out advice that's bad advice. Anybody could give bad advice. Hell, DFD probably gave out some bad advice. Probably wasn't that often, but occasionally I probably give out some bad advice. And if somebody correct me, hey, I appreciate it. So, hey, if you like this video and found value in it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and check out this next video on the screen. It's something related to finance that you'll more than likely enjoy.